Hello everyone, my name is Quake, and today I'm going to be reviewing Snake Pass. Snake Pass is a unique, physics-based 3D platformer from Sumo Digital. The game is a wonderfully innovative and strikingly beautiful game. But is it a game that lives up to its unique concept, or is it merely a poorly thought out gimmick? Snake Pass puts you in control of Noodle, an expressive snake who has no right being as adorable as he is. It is a game that will almost immediately bring back memories of older 3D platformers of yore, with colorful, detailed environments filled with various collectibles for you to find. However, once you start playing the game, you will realize just as quickly that Snake Pass is something entirely different from the games that might initially remind you of. Snake Pass's eccentric controls instantly set the game apart from other platformers. Instead of moving around with the left analog stick, Noodle simply moves forward by holding down the right trigger, with the left analog stick being used to turn. Instead of jumping, you tilt Noodle's head upwards, and lastly, you have the ability to grip onto surfaces tightly and have a bird lift the back of Noodle up ever so slightly. Success in Snake Pass involves using each of these various mechanics to navigate the environment, solve puzzles, and find collectibles. It sounds odd, and that's because it is. Though the game does offer a simpler, easy control option where you can control Noodle in a more traditional manner, it is not a perfect solution. Certain harder to use techniques are straight up impossible in this mode, so you're better off learning the more difficult controls. Snake Pass has a huge, daunting learning curve with its controls. You will be able to fumble about and finish the first world or so with little trouble, even if you aren't great at the game. But Snake Pass quickly ramps up in difficulty, and if you don't learn how the game controls and how the mechanics work, you will die a lot. Snake Pass's controls aren't bad per se, but the level of skill needed to execute them is going to be a turnoff for a lot of people, even if you are simply trying to beat the game without collecting all of the hidden items. And I wish the game slowly eased you into the more difficult maneuvers, because as it stands, the game doesn't do the greatest job at easing you into the more difficult levels. Snake Pass will have you exploring a variety of themed worlds, a fire world, a water world, a grass world, etc., all fairly unoriginal themes that have been seen in pretty much every platformer before. Each level has a multitude of collectibles to find, 3 keystones which are needed to beat each level, an optional 20 blue wisps, and 5 golden coins. Finding all of the golden coins and wisps is an immense challenge, requiring a mastery of both the game's controls and mechanics. Level design is one of Snake Pass's greatest strengths. The game constantly introduces new mechanics with each level, from moving and rotating platforms that you need to slither across, to switches you need to press and activate, and balls that you need to roll into holes. The game makes the most of its unique mechanics and will rarely leave you feeling like you're doing the same thing over and over again. However, Snake Pass is a difficult game, an extremely difficult one. Even once you get good at the controls, you're still going to die quite a bit as you make your way through each of the game's levels. And the checkpoint and saving system is punishing and unforgiving. Levels only have a few checkpoints each, and dying makes you lose all of your collectibles. This leads to situations where you're constantly made to repeat difficult segments of a level over and over again. In addition, there is no way to save inside a level, meaning if you stop playing for whatever reason, you're going to have to play through the entire thing again. This isn't inherently a bad thing, but given the difficulty and length of some of these levels, it would have been nice to be able to save inside a level and continue at a later point. The camera, on the other hand, sadly ends up being an issue in certain places. It feels the need to zoom in extremely close in certain areas and is extremely awkward in other areas. It can also be a pain to control the camera whilst doing complicated and challenging climbing and platforming. Overall, it's not an awful camera, but it needs refining in some areas. I have a few more minor complaints with Snake Pass. You are followed by a bird in each level, and said bird can oftentimes be distracting. It's not a huge deal, but I definitely found myself wishing that the bird just wasn't there at times. And secondly, you can't skip cutscenes, which just feels like an odd omission, especially for a game that expects you to play multiple times to gather collectibles. My last complaint deals with the game's length. I generally don't mind if a game is short, but Snake Pass feels particularly short-lived. Basic playthrough is only going to last you 3 to 5 hours, if that. A lot of the game's replayability comes from collectibles and time trials. Time trials appeal to a niche audience, especially given the game's difficulty, and the collectibles are excruciatingly difficult to get in the later levels. So if these two things don't interest you, there's little to do after the game's brief campaign. Snake Pass is a beautiful looking game. It is both technically and artistically wonderful, with vibrant, detailed environments. Noodle in particular is extremely well done. The sounds and facial expressions on him as he dangerously dangles off a pole or is close to lava are fantastic. It is clear that tons of effort went into making Noodle feel like a living thing. The PC version is great as well. Unreal Engine 4 means that the game is well optimized and that there's a variety of graphical settings to make the game run smoothly on a variety of hardware. David Wise composed the music for Snake Pass, and it's great. The levels have fitting, catchy, and atmospheric tracks throughout. I wish there was more tracks in the game, but in the end I'll take as much David Wise music as I can get in my video games. Snake Pass is a weird game, and it's that eccentric nature that makes it hard for me to recommend the game to a lot of people. I feel like the game lives up to the unique concept as best as it could, and I personally ended up enjoying the game. Persevering through the difficult challenge was an immensely satisfying experience. On the other hand, the awkward camera at times, the steep learning curve, and the high difficulty mean that Snake Pass is going to be a divisive game.